Well, you see, that's the whole point, is the word lie needs to be defined.
Larry, in this mail out that went out in September of 1995, this man Slabitkas refers to a so-called secret bank account. In his paragraph number 2, he says, I also believe someone was helping the Wessels at the bank with the secret checking account. Now, what I want to know is, what are they talking about here? A secret checking account. Did Robert Morey know where all the money was going to?
Well, that's a good question. Now, Bob, let me ask you, you're a businessman as well. You have a bookstore in Pasadena. You have, obviously, you must have some good business acumen. If you were if you were running an organization, like if you were an executive director of a foundation or something, wouldn't you want to know on an ongoing basis what's going on in your bank accounts?
Well, of course, and this is, I mean, you know, what's the word, credulity? This really stretches my credulity to want me to believe that he thinks there was a secret bank account, and on top of that, that someone in the bank was actually in some kind of conspiracy with you, helping you out, carry on this thing. It's just too much.
Well, this gets very interesting. In fact, I was going to save this information for later, but I think, Bob, you may have it. I don't know if you can find it immediately, and if not, I'll just start talking about it. But you received, to this, oh, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just wondering, did he offer any documentation to substantiate that claim of secret bank account? Or
no, we had to hire a CPA and go up to Pennsylvania.
Oh, well, amazing.
Well, the thing about it, as far as documentation, this man did not even document he's a CPA. I mean, documentation, what's that with these fellows?
They just claim it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, whatever pops in their head that they think will float, they throw it out there.
Well, we've got this accusation of a secret bank account, and Bob, I want to ask you at this moment now. I have been pleading and begging, and of course, in May of 1995. I mailed out a 10-page newsletter, which is right here. I sent it out all over the country at my own expense. I figured if this doesn't get Morey to sue me, nothing will. And if he sues me, then I can finally get all this information in court and we can take care of this situation. I call it the Apologists of the 21st Century, and this deals with a lot of what we're talking about here. Documentation for dealing with unauthorized expenses, the IRS records, so-called embezzlement checks. There's all kinds of documentation here, and this was sent out. And I think Morey, this vindicated letter that we've been talking about is sort of a response to this. He's trying to deal with all this documentation, with no documentation, it looks like, just with accusations. But so this is sent out, then this comes out, the secret bank account, and I have been trying, and with this newsletter, I was trying to get people to get Morey to send me documentation of his accusations so I can respond. I mean, you know, a guy throwing rocks and accusations, just show me your evidence, and I'll deal with it. But he never shows me any evidence. So I sent this out challenging people to get him to send me evidence. And I sent certified letters to like 8 different ministries in the Christian world and asked them to get the evidence from him and then send it to me so I could respond and they can make a decision on it. But it's just somebody get me the evidence. But no one would. I mean, all these certified letters I sent out, no one wants to get involved. No one wants to send me anything else. So now, Bob, I want to tie you into this, and I don't know if you can find it quickly. I think I can fairly quickly from my records, but finally, after almost a year and a half or more of never getting any documentation, just asking, show me the evidence of my embezzlements. Show me some hardcore information that, you know, I can go to jail for, you know. Give it to me. You were able, not me, despite all my efforts, you were able to finally get some evidence, or so-called evidence, of my embezzlement. And this is the only evidence that I've been able to see about my, and it was done in almost a collusive way with what the REF is doing from another organization called What is it? Evangelical
EMNR.
EMNR of Bill Alnor.
Evangelical Ministries to Two New Religions. And see, Morey had represented to me, once I got involved with this, he said, we're going to have a meeting at EMNR. Well, I didn't know a whole lot about EMNR. I knew what it was, and so I called EMNR to find out when this big meeting was going to take place. Well, as it turns out, there was no meeting set. But in the course of dealing with EMNR, I said, well, I want to see just one piece of evidence that you have that the Wessels are guilty of embezzlement. So they sent me a couple of pages of questions that Morey himself had written out for Eric Piment to ask you. That was one thing. And then they sent me a withdrawal, a withdrawal certificate from a bank where $3,000 were taken out of the bank. Well, that was accounted for by the money that they agreed to pay you back in the agreement of parties. So I went through each little piece of stuff. I think it was about 5 items, and none of it was so-called evidence. All it was just paperwork that Larry had turned over to them with the banking papers or something Morey had written up himself, and they never did ask you what the story is behind this.
Right. I was never consulted. I'm simply, were you told that this was overwhelming evidence?
Just like the withdrawal slip of $3,000. Well, evidently Morey didn't tell them that was the same $3,000 that REF used to pay y'all back some of the money that they owed the parties. And that's why I wrote an article about it and mailed it out during this time, that if that money was embezzled money, then Morey and REF used embezzled money to pay the embezzlers. Because if y'all embezzle the $3,000 and then Morey and them claim that they paid that $3,000 to you and you're the embezzlers, then there you've got that circle. Well, when I asked for just one piece of this evidence or whatever, they send me these few little sheets here, and it's no evidence of anything about any crime at all.
Well, let's take a look at this and determine this, because this, as far as we can tell, is the only evidence Morey has presented to the outside world. They certainly haven't presented anything to us, and so all we can go on is what this ministry, even though they won't give it to me and they tell me they don't want to get involved, they're actually getting involved and helping Morey in his cause. So I don't know if that violates any federal laws or not, but I guess anyone that might want to investigate that can check into it. But here's one of the so-called pieces of evidence, and it's a letter written to Robert Morey, and it just says, our records indicate that you are not a signer on account 572591, there's all the numbers. Due to this fact, we are unable to comply with your request. Now see, as it turns out, as we found out now, the secret bank account is this account at Franklin Federal Bank Corp, and that's the account that's considered the secret bank account. It's this 57-2591-246. That's the secret bank account that Morey's claiming, and these guys in this national bulk mail are claiming as a secret bank account. Now, Morey apparently wrote to these guys trying to get the money out of the account.
In other words, he knew there was money there.
Well, see, this is the irony.
The secret account.
This is the irony of the situation. The date on the letter is May the 19th, 1994. Now, we had two Texas REF bank accounts, one at Worthen Bank and one here at Franklin, which is they're calling the secret bank account. The one at Worthen, what was it, closed out May the 18th or May the 19th? It was almost the exact same day. I'm not sure if it was the day before or the next day. It was somewhere right in that period.
Yeah, I went down to the bank, I believe it was on a Thursday, to deposit those checks, and they told me that the bank account had already been closed out by Pennsylvania. And
so it was somewhere right around the same date.
I guess.
So almost on the same day or next to the same day, Morey was closing out the Worthen account, which they say they knew about. He was trying to get the money out of the other account.